Catch Coach Cowher, the rest of the NFL Today crew, Sundays at noon Eastern on CBS and Paramount. Good to see you again, Coach. Let me start with this. Do you enjoy seeing the Patriots lose more or the Cowboys losing more?
I see the theme of the Monday morning. There were some great wins yesterday. Let's not talk about those. Let's go right into Misery Monday.
Yes, yes. So, do you care?
No, in a weird way, Dan, I've kind of been there. I think when I look at the Cowboys, it was San Francisco's a very good team. They couldn't get on track early, got behind early. And when you become one-dimensional against that defense, it's going to be a long night. And I think that they can get things worked out. I look at New England, to be quite honest with you. I don't know where you go for answers, to be quite frank. I mean, you look at the offensive side of the ball, name me a playmaker. The quarterback is struggling. Offensive line is not creating any running holes. Defensively, you just lost your two best players in Gonzalez and Judon. It's a big challenge right now for Bill. You're coming off two very, very tough losses. To be critical of your team right now, you could lose them. There's a very fragile confidence, I think, in that building. Probably a place where Bill has not been before, but so it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds.
Can you watch a game as a fan, or do you have to watch it through the lens of being a former coach?
I always looked at it as a former coach. I get mind blown today by some of these decisions in terms of analytics. I mean, I watched yesterday. John Harbaugh is a good friend of mine, a good coach. In a game where points are going to be minimal, in the very first quarter, he's got a chance to go up 13-0. Instead, he goes for it on 4th and 1. And those 3 points we're looking at in the rest of the day. And so I see it all the time. I mean, what's wrong with taking points? You work too hard to get down there, and I don't want to hear about analytics because they tell you about your odds. They don't tell you about what happens if you don't make it. When you stare at those things, and you're staring you in the face the rest of the game. So I watch it really as a coach, to be honest with you, and I look at it and just seeing the in-game tweaks that every coach has to make and willing to make, and how do you slow down a Miami offense that looks like they're playing faster than everybody else. We watched a little of that blueprint with Buffalo, and then you feel for Buffalo. They come off one of the biggest wins of the year, and they go over there and lose maybe their best defensive player in Milano. They just lost Tre'Davious White. Sean McDermott will figure this out, but that's a big blow for Buffalo Bills.
How often would you send a play in and the quarterback would change it, even though you didn't want, like they would defy you? How often do you think that happened in your career?
I don't know. I didn't call the plays, but I know when I would go to the coordinator to call the plays, I think sometimes I realized the back thing, the one I got, and I realized it was actually it was a maneuver. They said they couldn't hear. It's like going they would say their helmet was out. They're tapping their ears, and I'm going like, okay, is that true or not? Are you hearing me, or is it selective hearing? So, sometimes but. A lot of the plays we had, you give options to the quarterback. And I think the biggest thing you do, to me, Dan, is the quarterback earns the right to have more input, right? So I think they earn your trust, and then they get to learn to trust you. So I think when you go into a game plans, you're going against certain things, you can flip a running play from one side to another based on what you're seeing the front being. You can also see a front that takes you out of a running play to a passing play. So those things are always going to be there as part of what you give a quarterback in terms of game plan. But then sometimes a quarterback thinks he knows more, and then he just hits his helmet. I got this.
Roethlisberger would do that?
Yes, I found that after the fact because I kept thinking, man, we're having problems with our communication. They're going, Coach, there's no problem. I can hear everything in his helmet. I go, oh, okay, let me look at the second alternative here. Maybe it was selective hearing.
I wonder if with a quarterback of Ben's size, would you be using that the brotherly shove that Philadelphia is using?
Well, he'd have to feel comfortable doing it, right? I mean, I think it's so funny when you watch and you think about a quarterback sneak. We think about Tom Brady, who did it so well for so many years. He takes it and he goes down low and it kind of hits his head down. And you watch Jalen, he's got this, at number one, I don't know if any centers can get as low as Kelsey. Kelsey's already a small guy, and he gets low, really low. And it's almost like Jalen's just riding the wave. It's like he's right on top of it. You don't see him go down. He's riding the wave of the back. So it's interesting to see the techniques involved. I don't like the play personally. I think it's a rugby play. It's a scrum. I think it's as bad for football. There's nothing strategical about it. But until we find ways of losing, or of stopping it, until we find ways of people not getting hurt, I know the Giants tried it a week ago, and 2 guys got hurt. So I think until it becomes a safety issue, they're going to keep doing it. I don't like to play personally. I just don't, but you have to stop it. It's been very, very effective.
Talking to Bill Cowher, the Hall of Famer, NFL Today on CBS analyst. Dion said, why don't we have sort of a penthouse with the Hall of Fame? And I propose if you have first ballot Hall of Fame, then can you do a special floor for the first ballot Hall of Famers? Joe Montana, whoever it might be, Dion, do you have any problem with that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I look at it from the standpoint of, I think when you go to that luncheon, I've gone now for 2 straight years. You sit in there, and I met this past year, I met Dick Butkus for the first time, my lifetime idol. I think we all recognize there were some quality players and coaches in there that, what they did was probably more than what you did. But yet I think what you did was warrant of contribution of being recognized as one of the best at what you did. To sit there and who's to measure what that criteria is to put you into that other element of it. So I understand it. I didn't go in as a first ballot. Maybe there's circumstances that don't put you in there for the first ballot. I wasn't, and there was a lot of media involved with it. I wasn't one of the most cordial guys at press conferences at times, and so at the same time, I feel very proud of the record that I had, and I will match it with, a lot of the people that are in there. So, and listen, we all recognize Deion Sanders. First ballot, I think we all know the first ballot, and we all know the players that are in there. But I think once you get in there to sit there and say there's a first class and second class, I think it'll be a disservice to the honor.
But isn't there a seating chart, though, somewhere, Coach, that might, the Hall of Fame events, do they have, Montana's up front and LT's up front?
Well, I think they do it more by whoever can walk better, who can sit. A lot of times you go there, Dan, there's a lot. If you can stand, you're in the back. If you need to sit, you go in the front. So it's more by your health status than anything else.
How does every team pass on Brock Purdy 7 times? But he's going to be and should be an MVP candidate this year.
No question about it. I know I wrote about it a year ago when we came in. It's so ironic because it had me thinking about Tom Brady, right? 6th round, this guy's 7th round. And you walk into a team and you sit behind a starting quarterback. It takes a starting quarterback to get hurt to get your chance, just like it took. You sit there and Brady comes in and Bledsoe gets hurt. And then all of a sudden, here comes Jimmy G, and all of a sudden Purdy comes in and he walked into a great situation, and I think he just fits the system perfectly. He walked into a very good defense. He walked into a Kyle Shanahan offense that's very quarterback friendly. He's very, very good at processing information. That's the thing I would take away from Kyle's offense. Yes, it's run oriented. There's a lot of motion. There's probably a lot of dialogue goes on, a lot of moving pieces. So you have to be able to process a lot of information very quickly. And I think that's the one thing you hear people constantly talk about with Brock Purdy is his ability to go from 1 read to 2 to 3. He sees the field. He can process things. And if there was ever a better offense to walk into, it's probably the Kyle Shanahan offense. So, it's always interesting when you see the free agents, the 7th round picks, the 6th round picks. There's certain elements that you can't measure going to the next level. And Brock Purdy has certainly surpassed a lot of the people what they thought they saw and didn't thought his limitations were. They no longer are.
Is there a game that you just can't get out of your head? Wakes you up at night?
Probably the 2001 AFC Championship game against the New England Patriots. We knocked Brady out. We brought Bledsoe in. We gave up a punt return for a touchdown because all of a sudden we kicked the ball from the left hash from our own 5-yard line. We had a guy run out of bounds. Troy Edwards, they replayed it, pushed us back. They put the ball in the right hash. My punter, Josh Miller, kind of didn't know what we're supposed to do. Am I supposed to kick it back into the boundary? So I go to the other boundary. I didn't know what he was talking about. I didn't even realize they moved the hash. He kicked it right down the middle. Deion Branch just took it right back for a touchdown. We go to kick a field goal. It gets blocked for a touchdown. We out had more, almost 100 yards more than they did, but we lost the game. And that was a very, very good team in 2001. So I look at those championship games and I think about those. Certainly the 95, 96 Super Bowl against the Dallas Cowboys. So I think about more the games that ended my season, not the games during the season, than anything else. And I probably remember the losses more than I remember the wins.
Could you outsmart Brady?
Can you outsmart Brady? No. You got to be patient against Brady. And you got to just try to if you can try to create some degree of hesitation into what he thinks you're doing, almost like in a weird way, like Peyton was. Peyton and Tom were so cerebral that you had to play a little bit of a chess game with them. And then you had to take advantage of the opportunities if he ever gave them to you. But if Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, if you showed them what you were doing from a defensive standpoint, they knew exactly where to go with the ball. And they were patient enough to take what you gave them. So it's almost like who could be more patient, somehow come up with a third down stop. Don't give them the big play, but you better be disguised in what you're doing, because if you give them pre-snap information, they're going to beat you and just tear you up.
Would you rather face that quarterback or the guy who athletically is going to extend plays, drive you, whoever that might be, but that guy that you won't have the athleticism to counter?
Yeah, I mean, and Mahomes is that guy now, right? Mahomes is the ultimate guy who can step up and talk about manipulating the pocket and having pocket presence. He loves staying in the pocket, and you're going to get off schedule plays. You're going to get his improvisation that he's going to have at times. Those are probably a little bit tougher to go against, to be quite honest with you, because those you can't control. At least the other things are controllable. I can control what I show and what I play. I can control my disguise part of it. I can be patient and make the play and make the tackle. But these plays that get extended for 6, 7 seconds, I remember going against Michael Vick. That's the closest guy I could kind of relate to. Michael Vick. Is all of a sudden you can't rush as like you used to always rush, because you had to make sure that you're very disciplined in your rush lanes. And to tell a rusher to be disciplined is kind of going against, it's almost like an adverse, like, oh, be disciplined, but you want to rush the quarterback? Like that's a contradictory statement. I know, but it kind of, you need to be that way. So, you want Patrick Mahomes to stay in the pocket and beat you, and he can do that. But I'd much rather him stay in the pocket and beat me than get out of the pocket and then throw the ball down the field. And then you have the offenses right now. Today's the biggest challenge you would have is that Miami offense, the motions, the San Francisco motions, Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, they came from the same system. They like to give you a lot of window dressing, a lot of movement. They get you to kind of take your eyes off where they need to be, and they play very fast. And so there's a lot of speed down in Miami. That's a big challenge. And again, patience has to be a part of that solution, and trying to at least slow them down.
I watched that Steeler-Ravens game. Now, granted, it's the best rivalry in football, but that's bad football. And I keep waiting for that Steeler offense. Where is it, Coach?
It's a work in progress, Dan.
Oh, boy.
It's a work.
You're being politically correct there.
No, but you know what? And you just keep fueling the fire by everyone sitting there waiting for Mike Tomlin to fire Matt Canada and to sit there and say, you can't do this and can't do that. Yes, it's going to have to be more productive. Yes, they're going to have to start taking more shots down the field. And they're going to have to, if they get Deontay Johnson back, maybe you get a guy who can have a little bit of run after catch. But they're playing defense right now. Maybe the best bookend rushers you got right now, Highsmith and TJ Watt. They're not giving up the big plays. And right now, Kenny Pickett is not turning it over. He's got like two interceptions in the last 4 games. They blocked punt yesterday. I know they kind of gave it back. And to be quite frank, Baltimore did not play very well. Mm-hmm. He had 6 drops. They missed a wide open receiver who falls on the turf at Heinz Field. So, it's a Heinz Field. The ghost of Heinz Field came out yesterday for the Baltimore Ravens. But, I still like the Baltimore Ravens. And I think Todd Monken, I think Lamar in that system where it's more spread out in the weapons that he has is at some point going to get more and more comfortable. You see signs of it. Yesterday was not one of them. And I think from Pittsburgh's standpoint, it is a long year. It's a work in progress because clearly the offense is going to have to be more productive than it has been right now. And I think getting back to the running game is a little bit of that answer. And I would not just be with Najee Harris. The Najee Harris, Jalen Warren combination. Jalen Warren came in and really gave that team a spark. When he came in, he made a couple big plays on third down, a couple of big runs. He gives them a little bit of that splash, a little bit of that suddenness that you want to see on that offense, because you feel like they're just plodding down. They're plodding on down the, that 12, 13 play drive. You cannot live on that. So they needed Deontay Johnson. They needed Jalen Warren. You're going to get the George Pickens maybe one-on-one. He'll make the big catch down there, but he's not going to get the great separation. So I think it's still there. And the biggest thing they're doing is they're winning while keeping, winning games ugly. And that's always going to be a case with the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game.
When's the last time you were in a fight?
A fight? Well, verbally or I mean, I'm fighting with Boomer and Phil.
No. That, I mean, like a physical.
A physical fight. I would say college. No, I actually got in a fight when I was in the pros too. It was a practice one time. It was actually the same day. The first time my late wife, I called at lunch and I found out she lost our baby. And I never forget, we went to 9-on-7. I was with the pads on and I just was so mad. And so I just started crying and I just started hitting everything. And they're saying, relax. I go, I got in a fight.
But did you eventually tell your teammates and coach what happened?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
I usually am pretty good at controlling my emotions, to be quite honest with you.
Except for the time when you ran off after the first half, weren't you? You had a word for an official.
Well, I said those were controlled emotions. I could have done a lot.
I'm sorry. You should be commended for that. Oh,
I was not. Those were controlled emotions.
I like that. Okay, we just didn't know that.
Yes.
Hey, great to catch up with you as always. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Man, always a pleasure. You're the best. I still got your jacket. You gave me one of those jackets. I came to the Super Bowl the one year.
Yeah.
And I still have it. I pull it. I go, oh, here's my black Dan Patrick jacket.
There you go. I'm glad.
I'm giving you props as I walk around.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you. That's Coach Cowher. Who knew that he was showing, restraint there? He looks like a guy you wouldn't want to mess with. Yes, Todd.
That's restraint, stuffing like pictures into the pants of a referee as you're running.
It's good stuff. Yeah, good stuff.